What if I told you Candy Cadet is connected to neither of the people we think he is? What if I said I think I solved why he's telling these stories and who exactly is telling them? That's a few what ifs, isn't it? And for a YouTuber's first theory video, it may be a bold statement to make, but I have a theory and evidence and connections to support it. If my theory doesn't stick with others, that's fine. Theories are just that, a theory. And, well, some may say mine is far-fetched. I think I have some pretty solid explanations, and when I thought of it, it kind of blew my mind. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. I will be referring to two particular novels for this video. These stories refer to The Mimic and Edwin Murray, as well as his son David. So, if you don't know who that is and consider yourself a FNAF fan, you're living under a rock. Okay, I'm just kidding. Not everyone agrees with the books being canon or even more relevant, and some people just prefer to keep it to the games. Which, to each their own. Everyone has their own opinions and they're entitled to them. Plus, I'm sure with the recent gameplay release of Secret of the Mimic, and that Mimic song that appears just about everywhere in every stream or gameplay video, anything Five Nights at Freddy's, most of you, I'm sure, have an idea of who Mimic is and his story. If not, don't worry, I got you. Just one more quick note before I start. As I mentioned, a theory is just a theory. Please be nice in the comments, but do feel free to share your thoughts and comments with me. I'd love to hear everyone's ideas. That's a huge part of what FNAF is, and a huge part of what makes it fun. Oh, one more very important detail. I am a Tales believer. I'm still trying to fit Frights in as well, since I'm 80% convinced it's also canon. Okay, so now that all that's out of the way, hold on to your Fazbutts while I take you into my deep dive on Candy Cadet and the Mimic story. So with my recent dive into the FNAF lore again, it was more specifically into the Tales of the Pizzaplex novels. While there is a lot I have to say about these books, there are two stories I want to speak more on that helps explain my theory. Bobby Dot's conclusion, the storyteller, and Nexie the Mimic, as well as a short description on the epilogues. When reading the storyteller in particular, my dive deepened big time. Hear me out. We all know Candy Cadet tells us those long, dragged-out stories, right?
Now I will tell you a story about a kind man who would visit 5 orphans and bring them toys and gladness. The man lived alone, and lived in fear that someone might break into the house of one of the 5 children, so he adopted all 5.
Well, nothing in the FNAF series is done without reason. And while we know Candy Cadet reveals us stories of Fazbear's Entertainment's horrifying past, I believe I solved who it is. And no, I don't think it's Henry or Michael, or nobody that anybody thinks, at least as of right now. If you do not want any spoilers on the books, skip to here for my big reveal. So way before we had the MCI, DCI, the Bites, the VS, and even further than Fredbear's Family Diner, we have Edwin Murray and his creation, the Mimic. To better explain this, I will do it in the order of the events that would actually have taken place versus how the books were released, which was Storyteller first, then the Mimic. So, starting with Nexie the Mimic. In the mid-1970s, we are met with a man named Edwin Murray, an engineer, a master at his craft, said to be able to create anything from nothing. When he was 4 years old, he found himself fascinated with machines and took apart his mother's appliances to see how they would work. At 8 years old, he knew he wanted to make machines that would be useful to others, something that could do the work, well, that we didn't want to do. Inventions that would change people's lives. And that in 1973, he's happily married to a woman named Fiona. From there, he starts his own company, Murray's Costume Manor. This featured his robotic vacuum cleaner at first, but grew with Fazbear Entertainment's buyout. We'll get to that. At this time, he's already acquired a factory to conduct his work, and a mansion. A year or so into running his business, his wife Fiona gives birth to their son David. However, this leads to a tragic event. His wife had died during childbirth, leaving him and his son David to raise alone while raising a business. He sells his house and the two live in the factory together. Edwin makes David a bed with a white tiger head as the headboard. This is important to note as the white tiger comes up a lot throughout these stories and in the future. Between the expenses of the machinery and raising his son, financial struggles arose, leaving Edwin no choice but to sell his company to Fazbear Entertainment in 1977. There's that buyout I mentioned. For the next year and a half, he would build animatronics for the company, attaching them to suits provided by Fazbear Entertainment. By 1978, he was working on his 18th animatronic, the bright yellow chick. When his son interrupted him, causing him to mess up the soldering job he was doing, the head then drops to the floor, bringing it to be damaged. Edwin's workload was too much for him, and finally he decided to make a robot friend. That's not a good idea. To help him in taking care of his son while still being able to work. Using unused and random materials from his factory, he then constructs a torso-up robot. Installing hardware from one of his old abandoned projects, he programs it with high-tech language code, using Pascal and C code. This program would enable the bot to have a thinking mind, one that would learn by mimicking what it observes. This process takes about 22 days to complete, and he calls this program the Mimic 1. Him and his dad collectively name him the Mimic after its program's name. Together, David and Mimic grew together, Mimic being taught childlike behaviors in games like hide and seek, patty cake, catching the ball, and making their own sign language to communicate, like asking for ice cream. David would hide in the suits sent by Fazbear Entertainment, I assume in games of hide and seek, and Mimic learns to do this as well. Time had passed, Mimic would learn more and more and adapt very quickly. Edwin then thinks to tinker with upgrading him during the night, eventually upgrading him to be able to move around better, keeping up with David. Mimic would begin to copy the way David would act, like I mentioned, their own kind of sign language. For example, David has a plush tiger. The two eventually worked together in making one for the Mimic after asking Edwin, but he couldn't afford it. Mimic would then carry that plush around, holding it as David did in his arms clutch. Even before he got the plush, he would still mimic the gesture of holding one. Seeing Mimic able to create like that shows him that he's not only mimicking, but responding, acting in his own way. Still in playing games of hide and seek, it would do as David did, hide in the suits. However, when he did it, he would make them all dirty. Being told by Edwin that that was bad behavior, Mimic at this point didn't really seem like he knew what was right from wrong. With that, more tinkering plays out. He wants to try and fix him once again, to understand right from wrong and accommodate David even better. However, not long after this, something very tragic occurs. After being woken up by his son to go play ball, he sleepily shoos him off, agreeing him to meet him downstairs when he's fully awake. David takes this as an okay to go outside, so he does just that, runs outside to play with his ball. When David finally makes it out, however, he witnesses a sight that seems like it was drawn straight from a nightmare. His son David had been hit by a car, trying to retrieve his ball, and tragically dies. Mimic still sitting in the factory. For the next 2 weeks, Edwin is sent into a deep depression. However, one day, Edwin loses his last bit of sanity when the forgotten, unpowered Mimic pushes him over the edge, holding not his own, but David's white tiger plush in his clutches like he once did. Edwin snatched the plush from him, but when Mimic continues to motion for ice cream like he was once taught, he had enough. Picking up a metal rod, he brutally beats the Mimic. These hatred and murderous thoughts and actions feed into the Mimic system, Mimic now learning these angry behaviors. When his anger is let out, regret then flushes over him. After crying next to Mimic's battered body, he decides to run away, Edwin abandoning his factory and the Mimic, his creation. Here we're met with a little bit of a time skip. By December 1978, his property was taken over by Fazbear Entertainment due to a breach in their contract. There is a team of 2, Terrence and an unnamed man, sent to the old factory to assess the situation and retrieve anything of importance. This team would finish projects and gather Fazbear Entertainment's property. As they fix up the place and examine things, they document their findings with a tape recorder. While in the process of searching the factory, they find remains of the mimic. Still legless, the team attempts to fix him, putting a pair of legs on him from an old animatronic. From here, the mimic awakens and murders the team, reenacting what it was last taught to him, but in more gruesome ways, locking one in the fridge to freeze, and another impaled with a metal rod and hung in the closet. Probably learned by seeing Edwin and David use the fridge, closet, and, well, we know where the metal rod comes from. Skip ahead a few months later to another team of 3 sent to check out the situation. This team of 3, Dominic, Harry, and Glenn, enter and are unknowingly immediately locked in. They notice a variety of animatronics, Chica, Foxy, Bonnie, and Freddy, and 2 jester costumes with a color palette of yellow, green, and pink. Finding a tape recorder, they listen to the events of what happened to the previous team. That they were trapped inside when entering, the door just closed behind them. There are several tape entries, but the last part explains that they will be fixing an advanced endo with no legs. The second team continues on. They take notice that one of the jesters that were previously seen are gone. Under investigation, they find the previous members' bodies in the fridge and closet. The missing jester costume, being the mimic, comes out of nowhere and murders one of the members immediately. The other 2 manage to run and hide. Now swapped suits, the mimic hides in the mushroom costume, able to disguise himself, making the 2 unaware of where he is. He kills another team member. The remaining member takes off and retrieves a weapon for protection. When he returns, he finds the body of his teammate gone, and the mushroom costume is now empty. As the events are playing out, the group traveled back and forth up and down the factory's floors. This time, the last one standing goes back up to the 3rd floor and notices a rotting gray-gold tiger costume arise. The tiger grabs a hold of him and rips him apart. So, okay, we have 2 teams now killed by the mimic. Fun little fact, I had to redo this 3 times now. The first time, the program I was using kind of just glitched out on me. And the second time, gameplay was released, so I had to change a few things. And the third time, which was my most recent, this is actually my 4th, my screen, my laptop black screened on me, so. But anyways, I had originally guessed on what the gameplay may have been here. While my guess was pretty close, I wasn't right on the nose. It wasn't exactly what I had said, but it wasn't far off. If you want to see more on that, I did a quick video and posted a while back. Alright, well I know everything I just said was a lot. The next bit shouldn't be as long. To explain, I'll simplify as much as possible. On to the epilogue. And we are met with yet another time skip. Another team of 4 are in charge of cleaning up the old rundown Freddy Fazbear's pizza place. Danny, Owen, Carlo, and Gil are tasked with breaking down old, damaged endoskeletons. This section of the Pizzaplex was going to be a museum. This building lay underneath the surface of the construction of the next edition of Fazbear Entertainment, the Mega Pizzaplex. While the team works, a delivery truck arrives containing a new and improved state-of-the-art animatronics. Possibly the Glamrocks, Monty, Chica, Roxy, Freddy, and Bonnie. I so want to say Foxy, but no one knows where he is. And I refuse to believe my boy was replaced by Roxy. I love her too, but just no. Upon unloading the truck, and after getting a good look at them all, one member notices an endoskeleton that looks old and out of place. Curious about this form of endo, they keep it in the old pizza place where they are working to see if they can repurpose it. This one member, named Gil, while not having any work experience programming, they dabbled in robotics and electronics at home. So, they hook up the mimic, well, we assume it's the mimic, to their laptop, and program a cleanup and a code that gives them instructions to break off the heads and limbs of all the animatronics and pile them by the exit door. Mimic is then activated, and while the initial moment that he's turned on is a bit unnerving, he just stares at them for a few minutes before turning to the old endoskeletons and continues with the task at hand. Pleased with the Mimic's work, the team heads back to continue with their jobs. However, it's now where the Mimic tries to play out his role. Mimic takes a hold of one of the team members and rips him apart. The other two flees and causes commotion. This brings the attention of the other workers who come to investigate. Eventually, one murder turns into a bloody massacre. One brave team member closes the exit door shut to the pizzeria. They then continue to beg the cement workers to seal off the doors before they run. After these events, the pizzeria as a museum was obviously scrapped. All access to the underground pizzeria was closed off, and the Mega Pizzaplex would be built, hoping to hide their mess once again and start over. That was more or less just a summary of Epilogue 1. Epilogues 2 to 8 requires yet another time skip. We are met with 8 teens that want to check out the Mega Pizzaplex construction site when getting bored at a nearby carnival. Rumors had it they had a shipment of the new animatronics come in, so they set out to do just that. Oh boy, here we go again. The group consisted of a couple, Adrian and Hope, along with their double dates, Lucia and Jace. Eventually they are joined by Hope's cheerleading friends, Nick and Kelly, as well as Adrian's football friends, Wade and Joel. Lucia, being hesitant due to hearing about something horrible happening, didn't stop the group. They thought they could solve the mystery. Trust me, mystery solving in Five Nights at Freddy's is never easy. They are met with a 12-foot chain-linked fence labeled "Danger, do not enter," plastered along it. Spoiler alert, they find a way in, despite the red flags yelling danger. During their investigation, they find a ramp that leads to the entrance to the old pizzeria. Halfway down, they are met with a block. What's that block, you ask? Hardened concrete. That would mean there's definitely something down there that's sealed off for a reason. But you guessed it, one of them finds a vent on the roof that leads down into the pizzeria, and they all jump down, going in despite the clear warnings not to. Curiosity and amusement quickly transitioned into fear when they realized ahead among the broken up endoskeletons was actually a real human head. With no way out and the Mimic approaching, after the group runs and hides, they decide to split up into different directions in groups of 2, in hopes of finding a way out. This obviously doesn't end well, as I'm sure you could guess. Each of them are killed off, one by one, except for one lucky survivor. The last one surviving thinks of a smart idea. Remembering the manual on the Mimic that had details on the spring lock suits, she lures the Mimic into a spring lock jester costume with hopes he would get stuck. Finding his deactivation switch, Mimic is switched off, and the last teen escapes through a bathroom window that wasn't as concreted as the rest, thus surviving and trapping the Mimic once again, but this time deactivated. Now, that story is out of the way. We have another time skip. Oh, I was very vague with who survived, just in case there was those that, wanted to read it for themselves. So mute me for a few seconds while I inform those who want to know, starting now. Is Lucia. Lucia survived and made it out. I was really rooting for her, so yay. Next, we move on to the storyteller. And I'm sure you guessed it, another time skip. The Mega Pizzaplex is now up and running. However, they aren't making as much money as they thought they would with the setup the way it is. Mr. Boros, head of directory, decides on change that would aid in their financial struggles and boost revenue. What was this plan? Downsizing on the creative department, cutting down on staff, and implementing an AI program to tell the Pizzaplex's story. Guess who's back? No, not him. Edwin Murray, the brains behind Mimic. He is back and in the Pizzaplex. But now he's 64 years old? Wait, what? 24 in the mid-70s? 64 while in the Pizzaplex? And this story is noted to take place 40 years, I may add, after the event of the mimic. And, well, he took off. How does this work? Wouldn't that make Pizzaplex open mid-2010s? Or early 2020? Another fun note. Edwin is noted to have been back and working for Fazbear just under 30 years since going missing. Yeah, I'll give my opinion on that in a bit. For now, the important thing that we need to know is Edwin Murray is back and now he is a member of the board of directors. Where did he go for X amount of time? I'm not too sure, honestly, but he was out of a source of income and, well, had no money. Remembering his and Fazbear Entertainment's buyout agreement, they owed him money before he disappeared and, well, wanted to cash out. However, the company instead hires him on as a member. The other members are very disrespectful of Edwin with the exception of one or two, but Mr. Burroughs really has it out for him. Getting back to the implementation of AI storytelling, Edwin hates this idea and expresses it, claiming the heart and soul of Fazbear Entertainment resides with the creativity aspects. Storytelling had to be told by a human that can have a connection with the Pizzaplex. Really, Edwin knows what giving a program a human mind of its own will really do. But despite all of Edwin's protests and the fact that he was supposed to be considered a consultant, Edwin should have had a say. But Mr. Burroughs just disregards everything he says. Oh, except for his suggestion for what the tree the storyteller should be in would be. They went with Murray's idea of a baobab African tree. With the addition of Mr. Burroughs' fondness for color, he opted for the leaves' colors to be rainbow. Remember this, I will be coming back to the color of the leaves. Leaves are rainbow. What tree, you might ask? Well, Mr. Burroughs decides that the storyteller would be unseen, living in a tree. Sitting in the middle of the Pizzaplex, the tree and its roots would represent the Pizzaplex and its roots. Connected through a program inside the tree was a series of wires that reached every part of the Pizzaplex, enabling the program to retrieve information and data from all areas and recreate and retell stories. One thing that bothered Edwin is that he was not allowed in the tree to see the program. After some back and forth with Mr. Burroughs as to why he can't, he gives up and decides he's going to find a way in himself. Through memos Edwin found, he learned the larger parts of Storyteller are to be delivered and placed into the tree on a Thursday night. Edwin, on the night of the scheduled delivery, sneaks through Monty Golf to try and get a good look at what's arriving. When he sees what they are moving into the tree, a giant white tiger head, he has a massive panic attack. Horrible memories come flooding back. After seeing this, the next day he confronts Mr. Burroughs and asks yet again what program is being used, and he's just waved off with a simple answer. Not the answer he wanted. So with that, he takes matters into his own hands once again, noticing that animatronics acting strange, more aggressive, even childlike. Sound familiar? Edwin finds out that maintenance gets in through Monty Golf catwalks through a latch in the tree. So one night he sneaks into the tree. Upon entering, he lays his sights on that same large white tiger head, with one green eye and one blue. The head had 4 metal arms attached to it, 2 to each side. Noticing a small computer on the tree's walls, he takes a closer look and reads the program that is running the storyteller. And it is none other than the Mimic 1. I just want to make a quick note here. You might be asking, okay, well, how did they get their hands on the Mimic 1 program? Surely, Edwin wouldn't have told anyone else about it, and it was deactivated. I'm going to make this short and sweet, but Help wanted would be your answer. That circuit board that was scanned, the one that causes everything to glitch, that's the Mimic 1 program. I personally think that Glitch Trap was never really supposed to be Springtrap or anything to do with William Afton. Maybe Mimic's inspiration? In my timeline and theory, he is still in Ultimate Custom Night, in an eternal endless hell. I simply think that Glitch Trap is the Mimic, mimicking William's antics. It's what he does. That's what makes sense to me. I know everything's just theories, so. Alright, now that I have that out there, let's get back to the storyteller. After his discovery about the Mimic 1 program, Edwin continues to go back every night, writing "I'm sorry" and drawing pictures of stick people, as well as odd symbols on a bunch of sticky notes, and sticks them to the inner of the tree. Mr. Burroughs now begins to notice the animatronics glitching out, immediately putting the blame on Edwin. Catching Murray on the camera, Burroughs decides to lock him in one night, remotely shutting the tree's latch while Edwin's in there. The latch was not only his way in, but his air supply. He's left in there for a week. When Burroughs returns, he thought Edwin might have had another way in or out, but, well, he didn't. He enters the storyteller tree to find Edwin's dead corpse under a series of notes repeating the "I'm sorry's" and those drawings and symbols. The door had closed behind Mr. Burroughs, and now he was trapped in there as well. He tried everything he could do to get out, yelled for help, pounded on the tree's interior, pulled the storyteller's cords from him. However, the Mimic 1 stays on. Mr. Burroughs resorts to attempting to beat the tiger until it shuts down, but that fails. He then meets the same fate as Edwin and runs out of oxygen. Fazbear Entertainment does what it always does and tries to sweep yet another horrific incident under the mat. The storyteller tree was removed and hid from the public. However, it's too late. The Mimic 1 program remains within the Pizzaplex. And it's not too long after these events that we have the arrival of Gregory, and then we are on to security breach. Alright, I know that was a lot of information to take in, but with that all out there, I can finally say what I have to and evidence to back it up. Just in case anyone forgot, Candy Cadet. How is all of this connected to this? Okay, so what if, hear me out, what if Edwin Murray is telling us these stories? What if he is Candy Cadet? I can already hear the questions and arguments against this, but here are the evidence that I found. We know that Edwin supplies animatronics and suits them in scent mascot costumes for Fazbear Entertainment. We also know that Candy Cadet is an older animatronic. So, say he made Candy Cadet. It is noted when he's making Chica and Nexie the Mimic that she is his 18th project for Fazbear Entertainment. I personally think that he made the mediocres and maybe even the rock stars. I highly think he made Sun and Moon too, but Candy Cadet is listed among the FNAF Pizza Sim menu. That is where he first makes his major appearance. He's right there along Edwin's Vacuum Bot and DJ Music Man, which we know from the Secret of the Mimic gameplay that he goes way back. And if I may also point out, we need to feed him Faz coins to get candy or stories. Goes to show how old he is. The next thing I want to mention is the fact that he's a robot that lights up in rainbow colors. Remember when I asked you to remember the rainbow leaves on the baobab tree? Yeah, this is why. Candy Cadet is also so passionate about his stories. Who else is? Edwin Murray. I don't know, it just connects so well to me. It's also important to note, or I think it's interesting to note, his voice has an older man tone to it. I want to say that Edwin is British and that furthers my connection, but I don't think that we're told that. The next thing I want to talk about, proving my theory, is where we see Candy Cadet appear and the stories that we are being told. First, we see him in Five Nights at Freddy's Pizza Simulator. He tells us 3 cryptic stories. He also makes an appearance in Ultimate Custom Night. Here, he doesn't say full stories, rather, they are broken up parts of one. He's deactivated, but occasionally flashes his lights. Next is the most important for me lore wise. He shows up in Ruin and in most recently Help Wanted 2. The stories told here are also major Fazbear entertainment history telling stories in cryptic ways. What interests me most is Ruin's story, explaining the current events that's happening. He's also right outside where the mimic is. Most crazy to me is the Help Wanted 2 stories. He's telling us about the mimic. How would Candy Cadet know about this? The stories is telling us stories of Fazbear Entertainment's past. Why would Candy Cadet do this? Edwin fits the perfect description. A father who failed his son, lost everything to his work and Fazbear Entertainment. He just wants to make up for what he's done. So what does he do? Tell us these stories trying to warn us. Okay, so I can already hear the questions. Candy Cadet tells us these stories before Edwin dies in Storyteller, right? But this goes against him possessing him, doesn't it? Pizza Simulator takes years before the Pizzaplex. This doesn't work. Are we sure? Let's be real. Deciphering the series, there's never any guarantee. But if we are sure, that still doesn't rule out him possessing him. Since I think he made Candy Cadet, maybe he was getting him to tell these stories from the beginning, in an attempt to warn others and make up for his mistakes. However, here's my take on it. By the time Candy Cadet makes his appearance, Edwin Murray is already dead in the Storyteller. This is where, if I haven't lost you yet, I might now. Okay, so I'm not going into a huge timeline description in this video. I will, however, show you my general idea for now. While working on this video, I have ideas for a few other timeline of my own. With the logbook recently telling us Five Nights at Freddy's 3 takes place in 2025, a lot lore-wise changes. Now, with that out, I believe Pizza Sim takes place in maybe 2016 fall season. I don't think HRY 223 means February 2nd, 2023. As mentioned by a YouTuber I am subscribed to, Gibby's Horror Homestead, this could simply be a file name, and its number with the ... possibly being to be continued. I don't think Henry would take too long to get Pizza Sim location up and running considering the situations, knowing William's bad doings and wanting to put an end to it. So, I'll give it a year, give or take. Gives a perfect time frame for me. Ultimate Custom Night takes place directly after. So, with that being said, as I pointed out above, Storyteller takes place in 2017. I know that was a lot to digest, but with the information given, it does make sense. By 2015, William Afton is done. Fazbear Entertainment has by now hired and fired an indie game developer and makes games in light of the past of Fazbear Entertainment's history. Lastly, the Mega Pizzaplex is under construction. I will do another video focusing more on this. However, with that in mind, it's highly possible for Edwin Murray to be the one telling us the stories through Candy Cadet. That was just a little sneak peek into my timeline that's relevant to explain my theory. I am, however, working on trying to put together one that will incorporate all books and games that are able to be connected. I plan to make another video based around this. Well, that more or less sums up my little theory. I hope I managed to keep your attention and whoever made it to the end enjoyed the video. If you like this video, please feel free to press the like button, maybe share it. If you agree with my theory and want a friend to know, and most importantly, if you have any comments, questions, anything, comment below. Just please keep the comments nice. I will not keep bullying toward me or anyone else here. It will just be deleted. Before I clue this up, I want to throw out my thank yous. While figuring out my own timeline, I used my own thoughts and theories as well as took inspiration from a variety of YouTubers. I want to take this time to thank those. Starting with Rytoast, Horror Homestead, She's Always Nervous, Hyperdroid, T-Dreads, Withered Circles, Withered Ones, Cryonide, and FNAF. A huge thanks to them for assisting me in filling the blanks and conducting my timeline. Also, a massive thanks to Ozone and Cedar for doing all those audiobooks. I try and keep up with the books, but I'm not made of money, so you two were a huge help. And a huge thanks to Scott and Steelwolf for all the hard work they put into making such a great mystery and game. I don't think I forgot to mention anyone, but if I did, I will tag them in the description. And thank you to all of my new subscribers that I've had on here since I started. I hope that you will enjoy this form of content as well. If anybody has any pointers or any constructive criticism, I'm happy to accept. Thank you so much. Until next time.
My name is Edwin. I made the mimic. It was difficult to put the pieces together. But unfortunately, something went so wrong, and now I can't do anything but sing this stupid song. My name is Edwin. 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 It's time to run and run. It's time to fight. It's time to run and run. It's time to fight. My name is. It's time to run and run. It's time to fight. It's time to run and run. It's time to fight. My name is David. Dad, I want some ice cream. David, that is my name. David, I want another. David, where is my